hello, and welcome again to Truth Quest. My name is Aaron Moriarity. I will be your host, and we're going to go on a quest for truth together. We've been talking about William Tompkins. Now, there are so many stories held within this book and all of his interviews that he did. He started working for the Navy at a very young age, and because they found out he was a good model maker, incredible model maker, and that opened the doors to him. He ended up finding himself in the secret think tank at Douglas Aircraft. And since he was also with the Navy, this was during the war. William Tompkins was witness. He was the person that these embedded spies in the German army, military, Air Force, were coming back and reporting what they found that the Nazis were doing during World War II. So they would come back and sometimes they'd have pamphlets written in German. Other times they'd have photographs. Other times they'd have pamphlets written in some language no one understood. And they had reports of seeing Draco reptilians and other Nordic aliens working side by side with the Nazis. And now this information was so out there that the military brass that was hearing this wasn't believing it. They weren't buying it. They didn't even believe it. But they kept getting more and more data and more evidence that this indeed was the case. And so, now from William Tompkins' point of view, they knew about the alien threat, and they were working diligently from the mid-40s up until today to prepare our defenses for possible invasion by the aliens. However, I don't think the aliens really want this planet. It's too tumultuous, too many hurricanes and earthquakes. It's not a good place to have a long-term civilization. But that's what the premise they were working on is. It was urgent because they knew of the prevalence of these beings and some of their nefarious plans. So that was a very interesting part. So William Tompkins would take these reports and turn them into information packets with his secretaries, and then he'd take these information packets to industry and to universities and to wherever that he could think to bring this stuff to that might be able to do something with this information to help us to kind of catch up with whatever the Germany was doing. But they were far ahead of us. According to William Tompkins, it's pretty incredible. I mean, it's pretty incredible what he says happened. It's just really something. Now, speeding ahead in the story, I did bring up as a kind of a teaser a trip that William Tompkins took with his with one of these Nordic secretaries in miniskirts. And what happened was they were in Florida, and they did not like shooting rockets off in Florida because the weather was terrible for rockets. Too humid, too many spiders. Not a good thing for rockets, too humid. And they were having trouble with the rockets, and they said, okay, we're going to have to fix something here. So come back in 3 days, basically. So William and a couple of his buddies went up the coast to some cabin or some house that one of the guys knew they could go and hang out for a while. They went there, and lo and behold, there was one of these Nordic women at this house, and she talks, or she tells William that they're going to, she shows him her chrome craft out back, and she tells him that you're going to come with me, and we're going to go into space, and for 3 months, and you won't be able to run away from me that whole time. And because he was avoiding her at these parties. And that's where he left it. No details, nothing. But he said, no, we can't go. I can't go because we're going to have to come back for a rocket test in 3 days. I can't go for 3 months or a month or whatever it was. And she said, oh, don't worry. You'll be back in time. Of course, they have command over time as well, so no problem. No problem to do that. So very interesting. I still think that this man here, William Tompkins, is an American hero. He's really the guy that got us to the moon. He designed the way they build the rockets, the building that the rockets were built in. He designed the observation room where the scientists were watching everything come in, all the monitors and whatnot. He designed that. And he designed the computer checkout system that all 30,000 subcontractors for the Apollo program had to put their pieces, their part of the project, through this computer checkout system. Now, this computer checkout system was being developed in the 60s, okay? How would they develop a computer checkout system in the 60s? How, you ask? Well, they had alien artifacts that they were studying, and they also had, along with the Project Paperclip that brought thousands of Nazis into the United States after the war. Also, along with the scientists from Paperclip, we also got from Germany a bunch of over 1,000 individuals. These are people who were inspired. They got dreams, instructions on how to build a spacecraft. And these were doctors, lawyers, shoemakers from all walks of life. They mortgaged their houses. They were trying to build this giant transport vehicle. And Germany found out about these people, and they grabbed them and they put them in their underground bases to work on getting a spaceship built. And so these people also, William Tompkins had access to the work these people were doing, as well as everything else that they had, alien artifacts, pieces, reports, everything you can think of to build this stuff. And that's really what helped us get to the moon. So William Tompkins is an American hero, and Selected by Extraterrestrials is the book. I highly, highly recommend it. And for anyone who doubts that we made it to the moon, we did go to the moon. And when they say that we lost the technology to get to the moon, we kind of did, because with William Tompkins, he had this connection with these extraterrestrials. He was getting a lot of answers. And everything that they developed was cutting-edge stuff that maybe nowadays people don't have access to what they had access to back then. I don't know. It seems very odd that they would say that. But see, William Tompkins had a much bigger role in the Apollo program than was previously expounded upon. Now, here's something interesting. Project Horizon. Now, Project Horizon, you can see there's a pamphlet right here. I don't know if you can see that or not. You see it? There it is. So now, this Project Horizon was a mission to put a base on the moon and go from the moon out to Mars and beyond. And curiously, this was declassified by Colonel Philip J. Corso, and he printed it in the back of his book, The Day After Roswell, from 1997, disclosure book. So disclosure is happening. It's just happening in books. People, you need to read books, and you can get the information. So William Tompkins. Now, it's really sad that William Tompkins left us. He did leave us with a brilliant book with a lot of very important information in it. However, when you do get this book, when you get it and you start reading it, there's something in the beginning that is very sad. So it's the prologue. And this is what I'm going to read. Okay. Prologue. We must prepare ourselves for the most earth-shattering news the world has ever known. Carl Sagan. I did not know that I know things that you do not know. At the outset, it's important I note that while this book is my autobiography, it does not tell my entire life's history. It only addresses my personal work in and my knowledge of the field of aerospace technology from 1950 to 1969. It was a microscopic period of space-time, but one in which a massive change in man's understanding of his place in the universe occurred. The subject matter contained in this volume is so important that it cannot be covered in just one book alone. The story of the rest of my fantastic life and corresponding adventures will be included in subsequent volumes. And that's very sad because this was the only book he got out. Now, I can only hope that Dr. Wood knows something about these other books he was planning, and maybe there's some notes, maybe they can pull them together, and maybe we can still... But if not, this still is a great book, and you got to read it. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I told you I was going to tell you about my theory about William Tompkins. Now, it would take many hours to cover everything that's even in this book, and then several more hours for all the interviews he's done and all the information he's given. But one of the things I want to talk about now has to do with my theory about him. Now, here's what it is. One of the things that William talked about was the development of life-extending technologies. And one of them was these 3 pills that you would take over a 3-month period. And any male that takes these 3 pills in succession in 3 months, no matter what age they are, they will age regress to age 29 and live that age for at least 1,000 years. A woman who takes the same pills will revert back to the age of 21 and live for about 1,000 years. Now, they were working on these pills, and William Tompkins was hoping that he and his wife would be able to be some of the first people to take these pills. And wouldn't that be grand? Now, sadly, he passed away. But as I was thinking about all the things he revealed, and one of the things was these life extending pills, I thought, well, maybe they came to him and said, look, we can give you the pills, but under one condition: we fake your death and you come and work in the projects with us. Now, I know that's a long shot, but it's definitely a possibility and something to think about. So we might bump into him in the future. Who knows? Maybe. Let's hope. Now, another book I want to talk to you about is this book right here, Alien Interview, by Lawrence Spencer. Lawrence R. Spencer, author of The Oz Factors. Now, it's a very interesting book. It's when this book first came out, friends, I did not put too much stock into it. I didn't think that. First of all, I thought the title Alien Interview had something to do with a popular video at the time that was out. However, it doesn't. And I prejudged this before I read it. I read it, it's spectacular. I even interviewed the author, and you can find that interview on blogtalkradio.com/Aaron's UFO Show. And my interview with Lawrence Spencer. Very interesting, very, very interesting. Now, in a nutshell, he was working on this book, The Oz Factors, Lawrence was, and it's how the Wizard of Oz is kind of a guide for everyday life. And in his studying the Wizard of Oz, he discovered that the Wicked Witch of the West father was an alien. That's why she was green and had powers. So he was trying to study up on aliens. He was talking to a friend, and a friend said, hey, you should talk to this woman. She was an Army airfield nurse at Roswell during 47, so she might have known something. You better talk to her. O'Donnell McElroy, however you pronounce it. And so he called her up. She was in Colorado. They talked for about 20 minutes on the phone, had a very nice conversation. But she said that he explained this book he was working on. She sounded interested, and but she said that I cannot tell you anything. There's nothing I can tell you. So he thanked her, and that was the end. And when he got done with the book, The Oz Factors, Lawrence Spencer sent a copy to Matilda because she had interest in it. Well, he didn't think anything of it after that, but 7 years later he receives a packet in the mail with all this information in it, and from Ireland, and it's from Matilda. It turns out her and her husband are in the end of their lives. They went to Ireland to choose when they could end their life together, because they can do that there. And she sent all these transcripts of the actual interview and her personal notes to Lawrence to do whatever he wanted to with it. She said, you should probably put it out in a fiction. That way no one could come after you or kill you for bringing this information forward. But he decided to just print it as it came to him. He copied word for word, and then he did something that I wish he wouldn't have done. He burned the original transcripts, so there's no way to verify it. He saw that as ensuring his life so that he would live, but wishing he would have kept at least one page to verify. Now, we don't know if this is true. Maybe he did make it up. He seems like an honest person, but you never know. He's a writer. Maybe the packet came from somebody else. Maybe it's someone hoaxing. But he did a lot of, the notes in the back of the book are pretty extensive. He did a lot of studying of the things that Errol was saying to try and verify as much as he could. So it's a very interesting book. And Alien Interview by Lawrence R. Spencer, Matilda O'Donnell McElroy. Very, very interesting. Alien Interview. Basically, what it says is what Errol, the sole survivor of the Roswell crash, was able to telepathically speak to Matilda, and for 2 weeks they conducted an interview where the military posed questions. Matilda would ask the questions, and Errol would refuse to ever answer any of the military's questions. Instead, Errol gave information that Errol thought we might need. And the information is incredible. According to Errol, 2 other members of the crew, 2 or 3 other members of the crew, died on impact because they had flesh bodies and they could not withstand the crash. However, Errol was inhabiting a doll body, and it's kind of, think of it like a robotic body, but made of materials not of this universe. Errol and his people are not, or her people are not from this universe. They're from a different universe. And when they came here, they noticed that the old empire, which is what Errol's people call the people in control of this part of the galaxy for many, many, many millennia, very ruthless, but they controlled this area, and Earth was like a prison planet. And but they didn't know all this, so they thought they wiped out all of the old empire, and so they were setting up bases. They put a base in the Himalayan mountains, and they cut off the top of this mountain, and they put a holographic image of the top of the mountain, so that the ships could come and go and not be as noticeable to the locals. And also, Errol revealed that some of the members of the Domain Expeditionary Force, which is what Errol's group, Errol calls that group that Errol is from, the Domain Expeditionary Force. So they had this mountaintop base. They had 3,000 members there, and they were conversing with the locals, which they really weren't supposed to do, but they did it anyway. They didn't think it would harm anything. So they were interacting with the local natives, humans, and they gave them limericks and tales and stories with some truth, kind of like Errol described them, kind of like Mother Goose nursery rhymes. And those became the Vedas, the Veda text, was passed down generations from Errol's people. Well, they were all in this mountain top, and they had eradicated the galaxy of the old empire. So they thought. And they were surprise attacked by the last vestiges of the old empire were underground. They had an underground secret base at Mars, and they came and they attacked in the Himalayan mountains, and they killed all 3,000 of the members of the Domain Expeditionary Force. And Errol describes that their people, their 3,000 members, got caught up in our reincarnation cycle. So when they died, they got caught in our cycle. Now, on most planets, when you die and you are reborn, you remember your past life, and societies can advance much quicker that way. But we forget our past lives. So Errol said they'd never seen this before, and that this planet was set up as a prison planet, so that when your soul, your Isbi, your immortal spiritual being, which is what Errol calls your soul, what animates your body, what animates all life, is an immortal spiritual being. She calls them Isbis for short. So when you die, your Isbi goes up, and there's this beautiful, beautiful music that's coming from these certain areas, and an Isbi is drawn to these beautiful lights and beautiful music, beautiful sound. And once an immortal spiritual being gets to that destination, it's trapped into a force screen trap. And all the energy that Isbi tries to get out is used against it, to zap it with very large amounts of electricity, to wipe out the memory, the temporary memory of that immortal spiritual being, and then it is sent back to the planet to then be reborn again, and live a new life as a completely different person. So it is very interesting. Errol said that they'd never seen this before. They keep coming back. They keep finding their members, because they can tell. They got this device. It looks like a pine cone, and you can tell what someone's soul. There's a reading. Each soul has a different reading, but they can never convince their people. They could never convince their people that they were actually part of that Domain Expeditionary Force, because their memories were wiped. They said they'd never seen anything like this before. They don't know what to do about it. Maybe they'll come back in 5,000 years or so and try to fix it, but they've got other plans. Very interesting. And we'll go over this again some more next time on the next episode of Truth Quest. Until then, this is Aaron Moriarty telling you to dig in, look up stuff. Look on the internet is a great source. You can find lots of stuff on there. Also, talk to your friends and family about this stuff. Bring it up. It needs to come out. We need to raise the consciousness of all of our friends who aren't watching shows like this. So send this to someone who, and along with other people like, Jordan Sather and The Edge of Wonder and Red Pill 78 and Space Shot 76 and all these great, Praying Medic and Methods and all these great people. We need to red pill these people. We need to raise the consciousness, because time is short, friends. So, again, Aaron Moriarty signing off. We'll see you again out on the web. Peace in.